What up, everybody? I've changed the oil in my Chevy Malibu. This one here is a 2010. So I figured, I don't know, what the heck, I'll just make a video of changing my oil on my Malibu. I thought about not doing it, as funny as that sounds, because, I don't know, I only paid $350 for this car. I've been driving it for almost 2.5 months. I don't plan on keeping it. It actually runs really nice, so I should change the oil and take care of it. But I don't plan on keeping it. I didn't pay a lot of money for it. It's got 200,000 miles on it. It is my only mode of transportation right now, so I'll go ahead and change the oil. It was down a little bit, so it's probably using a little bit of oil. It's been sitting up here on the lift. I checked it a couple weeks ago. It was down just a touch. I wouldn't be upset about it if it was using a little bit of oil. I mean, 200,000 miles on a car in Vermont is, actually it's in pretty good shape. Yeah, it's just under the grid, so that's plenty of oil. But anyways, so let's change the oil. So I took the oil cap off. The oil filter is down here. I'll grab the camera after and show you. It's a 32 millimeter shallow socket. This comes in a little kit of, I believe it's 5 different sizes, 32, 34, or it might even be a 30 millimeter. I'm not sure what the other ones are. The most common are the 24 and the 32 that I've experienced. So this one's a 32. There's a nut on top of the plastic housing. I use a long extension. This one says it's a 10-inch extension. It's a 3/8 drive. Yeah. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. So we tighten that one up pretty good. First time I've ever changed the oil in this car in my possession. I'm sure I've changed the oil on it because the fleet company I work for, that's who I bought it from. And I'm sure I've done plenty of work on it over the years. But yeah, here it is. Boom, that's what it looks like. Here we use Hastings filters. This is a LF624. Filter doesn't look too bad. Before you pick the car up to drain the oil out of the pan, you should pull this cartridge filter out, because this O-ring here keeps the oil from draining back down. It'll hang up a little bit into this housing down here. So the key to the oil change is draining out as much oil as you can and putting in as much new as you can. So this cartridge filter here usually is secured inside this cap. It's just a simple pull of the filter away from the cap, and it usually pops right off. It's just got these little tabs here. Hopefully the camera's focusing and see them. And just pops in on the inside of this. We are going to remove this O-ring, throw that out, and put on a new O-ring. I'll show you that after. I'm going to throw this one in our oil bucket, let the excess oil drain off. I do have a new filter. It's not a Hastings. I used a cheaper brand. It's from Federated Auto Parts. I think it's it's probably the same part number. It's actually PG 5436. I'll grab it later when we put it in and I'll show you. So yeah, I popped the oil cap off. It's important to set this somewhere where it's not going to roll off and hide somewhere inside the engine bay. I'm going to pick the car up and we'll drain the oil. I'm just wiping the oil off my hands so I don't get my camera all covered. I am going to take the 3/8 ratchet with me though, because I'll probably need it. Changing your oil, if you're doing it at your house, is checking your coolant, making sure it's full. Checking your brake fluid, make sure it's full. And then the other key one is, I'm sorry, we did the washer, or the coolant and the fill the washer one. So the coolant and brake fluid is pretty key. Just checking. The transmission doesn't leak, so I'm not going to check the fluid level. In my opinion, the transmission should always be full if it hasn't leaked anywheres. I know there are some scenarios where the cooler could mix in the radiator and the coolant, but we would see that inside this jug. So I'm going to assume that's full and it's shifting fine. I'm not going to worry about it. Right here is where this filter housing came from. That is where the oil filter sits. And let's go ahead and pick this up and drain some oil. But I have access to lifts, so I'm going to use them. It's the same idea, just, you know, you may or may not be laying down in your driveway doing it. Or in the grass, who knows, for that matter. Wherever you guys do. Alright. Straight some oil. Grab my oil bucket. Hopefully this is going to help with a visual. Drain plug right here, engine oil pan. This one here is the transmission pan. We're going to drain that one. That is, looks like a 15 millimeter. So I don't bother trying to catch a drain plug in these buckets. I don't know how many this will hold. It might be a 15 quart bucket down here with a big transmission catch pan funnel piece, I guess you can call it. I used to call it a sombrero. It sits on top of this red oil bucket here. So I spin the drain plug out and then I just let it fall right in the bucket here. And then it'll catch it in the bottom. Once all the oil's drained down, I can just pull it out. Just like that. And then, pretty straightforward with the oil. You can see it draining out in the bucket. I really let it drain out. Typically on a car that I care more about, I would say I spend more time, but I'll let it get to a slow drip before I pop the plug back in it. The other thing I like to do when I change oil is check air pressures in my tires. It's a good time to do it. Make sure they're up to snuff. You know, you're not wearing your tires down because the tread's low or whatever it may be, pulling left or right, or, you know, ending up with a flat. So, anyways, it's pretty straightforward stuff. While we're letting that drain, I'll grab my air chuck, get my hose reel ready. Probably go around here and just check all these tires. If it looks terrible, I'll probably edit it right out. Boom! I'll keep about 35 PSI in these tires. Seems about good enough. That one was around 30 PSI, topped it up. You know, between 35 and 38. This gauge kind of sucks, so. Up on over to that's the oil bucket I'm using right here. Air pressure. The car's got some rust on it here. I knew it. That's why I didn't pay a lot for it. That's not awful. It's just got a lot of paint flake. You know, it's got a good sizable blister right here. If I really wanted to see, you can see it's soft. If I really wanted to push it in, I could probably break it. Got some on the wheel wells. This car's not long for the road. I'll probably get another year out of it if I have it that long. I suspect I'll probably find something else to drive. I usually do. I don't keep cars very long. I usually like to buy and sell them. This one here, I probably won't try to sell to anybody. If I do, it'll be, you know, $400 or $500 what I have into it. I paid $350 for the car, and then I put about $150 in parts in it, a couple oil control valves, lug nut, lug stud, and those tires I'll take off and keep. Those tires were, I don't know, $120 or so for just the two fronts. I did just two snow tires in the front, and then I studded them on my own. So I know it's not a good mixture. You shouldn't do studded snow tires, especially just two, but I did. I understand the issues of doing that and not putting any on the back. So I'm just cautious when I drive in the snow. That's what I got in the back. They're decent tires, worn pretty funky, but I just drive cautiously, and everything usually ends up okay. Knock on wood, you know. So the oils come to a good slow drip, and that's what I like to see before I put the drain plug back in. And then, yeah. Now's a good time to change your O-ring if you wish. I only change them usually if they're showing signs of distortion. These drain plugs are a little bit different because it's kind of set in a little bit on the drain plug. These are generally okay as long as somebody hasn't over-cranked them down. Just start it in by hand, and then good thing to remember, guys, when you put oil drain plugs back in, you don't have to kill it tightening them up. You know, the torque specs are usually pretty minimal on these, so don't over torque them. What I just did there was probably a little too much, but I know it's not going to bother anything. Alright, that's it under here, guys. I just wiped the excess oil off. Everything else looks good for what it is. You know, it's seen 11 years of salt and winters and harsh Vermont winters, and 200,000 miles. Plastic housing. I'm going to grab a little screwdriver right here out of the toolbox. Little flathead. So sometimes you can just kind of push your fingers on it and push it, create a little gap. I just stick the screwdriver in it and just work it off. Throw that right in the garbage. And then here's a new one that I'm using, guys. It's just an El Cheapo oil filter from Federated. Nothing special, but these are totally fine. I've been using these for probably 4 or 5 years now at the independent shops I've been working at, and I've had no issues. think this thing, my cost on it through the shop was like $3 maybe. So this is the new oil filter. So pay attention to when you take your O-ring off. I should have mentioned it before, but you want to put the O-ring back in the wide groove, guys. So pay attention when you take it off. It has to be in a wide groove. If you don't do that, you're going to end up leaking oil. So just start one side, and I just work it around with my fingers, and I just push it down to where it needs to be. Then what I like to do with my oily glove fingers, I just rub a little bit of oil on around that O-ring, just to help it not catch too much when I'm tightening up the cap here. Take your oil filter, set it inside your cap, you know, somewhat even and centered. Push it in. Did you hear it pop? That's all it needs to be done. It's going to stay in place. Alright guys, set this over here. I'm going to reposition my camera. Hopefully it's not too loud in your ears. Bear with me. Just take your housing, set it back down into the slot. Slot or housing is a better term for it. And then get your cap started. Make sure you don't cross thread it. It should spin nice and easy. I'm barely putting any effort into spinning it down. And then once it starts to tighten up where that O-ring is, then I'll finish it off with my ratchet and my socket and extension. It's a 10-inch extension. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but that will get you there where you need to be. And this thing here again, guys, remember this is the same thing. Don't over torque this. Plastic housing, it will break easy. You don't want to over torque it. So you tighten it up and then you're going to feel it snug right there. Mine's snug, and I'm just going to, just a little bit, just a little notch. You probably don't even have to do that. That O-ring's going to keep that oil in there. If it doesn't, you're going to know right away. I should say, guys, when you change this oil, you probably get away with not using a shallow socket. You see what I mean by shallow? It's not very long. And so the way the intake manifold is on this, this is super nice to have. If you use a regular socket, you're not going to have enough space. You can probably find an adjustable wrench and work it slowly around, but these are definitely faster. And it's probably cheap money. If you own one of these, just go buy one of these at the parts store. Keep it in a glove box. It's probably really like $5, maybe. So I've just got the house brand Federated oil here, guys. It's a blend. I didn't want nothing fancy for oil. This here again, this was, I think I paid, my cost was like 19 bucks on the filter and oil. 5 quarts. This car's only going to take 5 quarts, so this is perfect. I grabbed myself a funnel, and you just got to be careful not to pour too quickly. So nice and slow, easy does it. Pay attention. It's not the end of the world if you spill some. You'll just have to clean it up, obviously. Put a rag underneath your funnel so it doesn't drip all over, but I just tilt it back a little bit and the drips will stop. And that's it. I'll probably leave this in the oil drain bucket upside down, get some more oil out of it, and then I'll try to recycle it. Alright guys, next step is you put your oil cap on, and you're going to start it up. You're probably going to hear the timing chain rattle a little bit. This one does from time to time. I'm having trouble getting my words out tonight. it is getting late. I just cleaned up my mess, and I started up, let it run probably, I don't know, 20-30 seconds, shut it off, let it sit 20-30 seconds, and I'll check the oil level. We should be good. So yeah, you guys can pick up any oil you want. You could have picked up 5 quarts of 530, done a, or 530 synthetic, and done any kind of oil variety you wanted. This one here calls for 530. You can certainly use synthetic. Pretty sure this one takes the Dexos rated, but like I said, 200,000 miles, I wasn't worried about it. Pull your dipstick out. I was thinking about trying to show you guys this, but this oil, you know, when we change oil in these cars, when, you know, as a fleet company, it was owned, we change these in these cars every 5,000. So the oil is really clean, even with 200,000 miles on it. So this is a little bit low on the dipstick, so I'm going to want to, it'll be fine for tonight, but I'll pick up a little more oil in the morning. I might let it set a few more seconds here and recheck it. Let some of that oil drain back down in the pan. But that's not a big deal. I can pick up some oil in the morning. Now's a good time to fill your washer fluid. That's down here. Right here. Bang. The light was on the dash, so it was bone dry. Alright guys, I'm going to recheck the oil dipstick. See where it's at. If I got to add some oil, I will do so tomorrow, but yeah, that's going to be totally fine. So you're never going to see that on here, but that's halfway on the grid, and that's where it's supposed to be. But what I like to do is run it on the upper side of the grid. I like to keep it full max, especially on something that's got a lot of miles on it and maybe using a little bit. That's just what I do. It's not necessary. So yeah, I will put a little more oil in it tomorrow. Yeah, it's about halfway. Totally fine. The last thing I'm going to do, guys, I'm not going to video, is I'm going to write an oil sticker for this. Write an oil sticker. I'm going to rate it for 3,000 miles. I'm a firm believer in 3,000 miles when a car's got high mileage on it. Synthetic oil, I do 5,000 miles. My wife's van is a Toyota Sienna. Takes 0 W20. I do 5,000 miles on that van. It's got less than 70,000 on it. I might change that interval up once it probably got over 100,000 miles. Change it a little more frequently, but other than that, writing the oil sticker, guys, this oil change is done. 15-20 minutes. It's not a big deal. Check your oil level, make sure your cap's got no leaks. Check all your fluid levels. Other than that, it's ready to go, man. Guys, if you like my videos, subscribe to my channel. It helped me out, you know, building my channel up. I do these kind of things to help people out trying to do stuff on their own at their house. You know, I'm hoping that some of this information is helpful, and you know, that's the whole reason why I started this channel. Is, you know, there's a few videos I found on YouTube that were helpful to me at some point, that I was trying to do some things, and some things I didn't know, and I'm like, you know, I think it's great if I could help out other people and maybe show other people a thing or two that I know that they didn't, and help them out. Maybe save them a little money. Alright guys, peace.